Sesshin is hard, is it not? Sesshin is hard. It's requires a lot of physical awareness and strength to sit in this posture time after time, 30 minutes at a time, and then there's walking, but then another 30 minutes, and then another 30 minutes. So your body learns a lot, your mind learns a lot, but it takes a lot of gumption to do sesshin. And the benefits are really incalculable, just incalculable. Can't say what they are, but you feel them. And each of us in our individual way feels and learns something new every time or for the first time. And then this afternoon, just after this, we'll have a little bit of a break while the practice period, people who are staying here have lunch. And then we go into another very important feature of practice period, which is the, Leslie, can you move a little bit to the side? Because it looks like Constance's head is on your body. It's disconcerting. Oh, good. Now I've got both Constance and Leslie. But now Daniel, your head is on Daniel's body. I can sort of see Freddie. It's good to move around. So we will have a ceremony for our Shuso, our head student, head monk, head practitioner for this practice period, and that starts at 12:30. And this is a celebration of the whole practice period, but a celebration of this Shuso also and the training practice that's gone on. So I hope you can all stay or come back, and the rest of the practice period will come also. And Vicky, one of our tantos, will explain to you what happens during that ceremony if you have forgotten or if you haven't done it before. It's a really lovely ceremony. I was thinking about what we've done. What did we do? What did we do sitting here and cooking and working and doing walking meditation and then sleeping in all various rooms? What did we do? There's a quote, after a while you hear all the chants so many times, they come into you so many times that the words come out of you without any effort. So when I was thinking, what did we do? You'll recognize these words, many of you. We extended the Buddha's great activity, the incomparably profound and subtle teaching. We extended the Buddha's great activity, the incomparably profound and subtle teaching. That's part of a chant we do every noon. And that's what we do. As mysterious as that is, that's what we do. We had this weather, not every day. This weather is so amazing. A little bit cooler, a little bit blue. We had lightning and thunder and torrential downpours during which one of our members became, where is he? Where's Brett?
There it is.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
You're dry.
Today.
He was caught in the torrential downpour about half a block away, and he came in looking like lunch, like, you know, steamed vegetables. But he adapted quite well. So we had that kind of weather. We had, in the interior spaces, we had Arctic freeze, because this is Houston, so you come in a little bit damp and the air conditioning is on full blast. And the new air conditioning in the Western Zendo is quite superb, isn't it? Thank you all who donated to our cause to raise enough to put in a new ductless unit out there. Thank you so much. One of the days, well, first I'll say the most important day of Sesshin, no matter how long it is, 3-day, 5-day, 7-day, the most important day of Sesshin is the day after. That's the day you get up and extend this activity. That's the day you get up and go to the Zendo. That's the day you get up and you're mindful. That's the day that the Sesshin, it continues to live in you. The most important day is tomorrow morning. I had a little taste of what we're walking into yesterday I did have to go to a meeting on Zoom that had been scheduled for me a year ago. And it was a discussion with a bunch of people in Europe, in Japan, all across this country, about the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, especially Goal 8 and 9, which is basically mindful and fair development in all countries. So the speakers, one was in Italy and one was in north of San Francisco, and then there are all these people. So I attended that while everyone here was having lunch. And it was quite beautiful. The speaker in Italy is part of an organization that creates positive peace. His life is devoted, he's a Zen priest, his life is devoted to positive peace efforts. And he pointed out to us that he, in his Zendo in Tuscany, is very near war. And we all said, he said basically that the underlying goal, actually the underlying goal of our whole practice and the underlying goal of the Sustainable Development Goals is peace. What are the elements that will make a peaceful planet? And he pointed out that the distance from where he lives and where there's a full-on war going on is the distance between, he said, San Francisco and Denver. I think it's a little further than that. So of course I looked it up because I wanted to tell you something accurate. The distance from his town to where there's a full-blown war going on is the distance from here to Portland, Oregon, or from here to Portland, Maine. Kind of the same. So I imagined my mindset if I was walking out tomorrow, knowing that there's a full-blown war going on in Portland or in Portland. It's an amazing world. And the other speaker talked about fair wages and fair employment, but he was also pretty straightforward. He brought in some facts. When the Sustainable Development Goals, the goal to create a fair and equitable world in these different dimensions, when it was initiated in 2015 with the goal of accomplishing this in 2030, we've actually gone backwards. So that was bracing. And then we talked about, well, what do we do for peace? And in the positive, I'm not going to go on with this too long. I'll go into the Dharma, other kind of Dharma soon. But the way forward for peace in the positive peace world is through connection. Society, members of societies connecting with each other. And he said it actually doesn't happen through governments. Governments have to cooperate to accomplish a lot of the financial goals and so on. But he said the actual goal is to create more connections among members of societies. And one of us on the call said, how do we do that? And he said, this meeting is an example. We've got people from Italy, England, Japan, all over the United States, and we're relating to each other and hearing each other's concerns. It was beautiful. It was a living connection. And then he had a few other things to say, but another way that we create this peace is this place, this practice, of course, but also the broad range of people who come here from all over the world. Actually, people come here, and we don't talk so much about, we don't interrogate each other about where we came from and what our life experience is and what's your politics and what's your social awareness and so on. But it's in the room. The huge diversity of experience and attitudes is in the room. And this is one of the sources of creating peace. I want to appreciate that. And raising up the feeling of gratitude, awareness of our great good fortune. We are so privileged and so safe and loved here. So appreciating this feeling actually empowers us. The Dhammapada, there's a little passage in the Dhammapada about the other feelings which can arise when we think about these challenges, gloom, foreboding, you name it, sadness. But in the Dhammapada, the teachings of the Buddha, he said, gloom and foreboding do not dispel gloom and foreboding. Gloom and foreboding are only dispelled by settling and understanding. And of course, being with loved ones in connection. But gloom and foreboding do not dispel or eliminate gloom and foreboding. During our wonderful practice period, which the Shuso chose to teach us with the 8 qualities of a great person, a great book, and a great teaching. So how many of you know these before I go on, I did make a little note. During the Shuso ceremony, no, I'll say this later, the 8 qualities of a great person, most of you have heard this now, right? Okay, 8 qualities, do you want to know what they are? Sure. The 8 qualities of a great person are, according to the Buddha, the first awakening is to have few desires. To refrain from wildly coveting the objects of the 5 sense desires is called few desires. The second quality is to know how much is enough, or to know contentment. Even if you already have something, you set a limit for yourself for using it, so you should know how much is enough. The third awakening is to enjoy serenity. This is to be away from noise and confusion and stay in a quiet place. This is called to enjoy serenity. I'm going through these just to summarize, because then I'll go into a couple of them. The fourth awakening is called diligent effort. It is to engage ceaselessly in wholesome practices. This is why it is called diligent effort. It is refinement without mixing in other activities. You keep going forward without turning back. The fifth awakening is not neglecting mindfulness. It is also called maintaining right mindfulness. This helps you to guard the Dharma so you won't lose it. It is called maintain right mindfulness. The sixth awakening is to practice meditation. To abide in Dharma without being confused is called stability in meditation. The seventh awakening is to cultivate wisdom. It is to listen, contemplate, practice, and have realization. The eighth awakening is not to be engaged in hollow discussions or idle chatter. It is to realize and be free from discriminative thinking with a thorough understanding of the reality of all things. It is called not to engage in hollow discussions. I'd like to say something about this particular sutra also, because it's got a wonderful history. The Buddha only lived to be about 80, so the Buddha had a long teaching career and traveled around northern India teaching for 40 years. And then time came for him to die. He was ill. And this is the last teaching that he gave. Sort of a summary of what this practice is all about and how to demonstrate it, how to live in the way. Then, how many years later was Dogen Zenji? So about 12 plus 4, what's 12 plus 4? 16. 1,600 years later, then Dogen Zenji, the great founder of Soto Zen in Japan, wrote many, many beautiful poetic writings and we've been studying them. Dogen is the one is in the little carving, sitting there. Every week this year, and it looks like it'll take more than a year, we've been addressing one of the chapters in Dogen Zenji's writing called the Treasury of the True Dharma I, Shobogenzo. So every week we've been looking at one of those. The last thing that Dogen wrote was the 8 awakenings of great beings, knowing he knew that this was the last thing that the Buddha wrote. So as he was very ill, he was in his final illness, he copied this sutra and added just a little bit of commentary. So instead of turning it inside out, which we've watched him do and make poetic commentary and then turn it so you understand all sides of it, all he did was copy it and then say in a brief paragraph, we're so fortunate that we heard this, because everybody who died before the Buddha died in his lifetime didn't get to hear this teaching, didn't get to hear this summary of the teaching. So Dogen himself pointed to this as such an important practice for us. We've talked about it. The Shuso taught a very useful, wonderful class about these 8 qualities, and we've studied it and we talked about it during this session. For me, the first 2 of these awarenesses or qualities are incredibly important. They contain all of them from these 2, which are having few desires and knowing contentment, knowing when there's enough. These are important, and at the level of our conscious, busy minds, we understand them quite easily, don't we? Having few desires and knowing contentment makes a lot of sense. And they seem like something we should make a big effort about. But for both Shakyamuni Buddha and Dogen Zenji, these are things that arise from our practice. Notably, Buddha didn't say and never said, have no desires. It's just few desires. Have few desires. And as we settle into our life, the wisdom of our lives and practice, those desires clarify. And a lot of what this practice is about is providing a container in which these desires clarify. So one of the big desires is to wake up, to actually see clearly. And if we're very, very fortunate, that desire is born in us. And if we're very, very fortunate, that desire doesn't go away or corrode. It remains active throughout our life. And it remains something that helps us see through challenges and difficulties and things not going the way I want them to go. Still the desire to see it clearly, still the desire to wake up is there. That desire, very strong. And then the second one, to know contentment, is also something that arises. Although Shakyamuni Buddha didn't comment very much on this particular writing, he commented on the mental factors a lot. So we talked a lot about how we are driven to spend around in our world of desire and so on. But in this sutra, he didn't talk about it so much. And again, Dogen didn't talk about it so much. But we are fortunate that another great Zen teacher did comment on it extensively. So Uchiyama Roshi wrote a book about it called The Roots of Goodness. And the translation of that commentary just came out a few months ago. So it's like in our lifetime, there's another good commentary about this. The first good commentary about this. We're so lucky. These teachings just keep coming out for us to appreciate and absorb. So the commentary by Uchiyama Roshi was translated by Tom Wright very recently. And I have a nice connection with Tom Wright. It's because of Tom Wright that I ended up at the monastery that I ended up in Japan. I'll tell that story sometime. But now Tom Wright has translated this because he studied with Uchiyama Roshi for a long time. He stayed in Japan and studied there for a long time. And Uchiyama really understands this thing about not having enough. He says that satisfaction is, or dissatisfaction is not actually soothed by satisfaction. Dissatisfaction is just dissatisfaction. It's not soothed by satisfaction. Our little dogs are dissatisfied quite a bit, and they're hungry quite a bit. So we give them a treat and they sit down, but actually that hasn't soothed the dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction is still there, but we've distracted them for a minute. And the same is true with humans. If I look very closely, the so-called satisfaction, I mean, at best, it's temporary. It's a nanosecond of satisfaction. Because if the understanding of the desire or the craving hasn't been resolved, dissatisfaction arises again. And of course, we live in a world that is manipulating us to keep that going all the time, and really consciously trying to tell us that you're not satisfied. You don't have enough. You don't have all the recognition you need. You don't have all the things you need. You're not getting the right kind of food. The world is telling us that consciously all the time to try to get us to stay in the whirl. The step backward that the Buddha is suggesting is to actually study the dissatisfaction. Be willing to have this human feeling of dissatisfaction. The real nourishment, knowing what is enough, the real nourishment is something actually we don't come by naturally. We don't understand what real nourishment is. We can recognize it eventually, but if somebody, when I was a child, told me that I would be eating a lot of kale when I was a grown-up, I would not believed it at all. Or what the micronutrients are that this human body actually needs. You guys are crazy. It's just, well, peaches and avocados in my childhood. I could live on peaches and avocados, plus the other things that I became accustomed to. Right? Knowing what real nourishment is a gift of wisdom. Wisdom comes along and tells us that. The other realization, or the other desire, I think we should accept, as I said, the desire for awakening and the desire for understanding. Well, I want to tell this other story first. This afternoon at 12:30, we'll be having a Shuso ceremony, and the Shuso will be first reading a writing, a koan. He's going to read a koan from Bodhidharma, and the koan is, do you have it memorized?
Not quite.
But go ahead and say it as well as you can.
Bodhidharma was asked by Emperor of Liang, what is the holy truth? And Bodhidharma said, nothing is holy. And the emperor said, who is this standing before me? And Bodhidharma said, I don't know. And he left and went to the kingdom of Wei and asked that one of his ministers tell him, came forward, Master Chi, and said that, asked the emperor, did you know who that man was? And the emperor said, no, I don't know. And he said, that was the Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara. who transmitted the mind seal. And when the emperor thought about going after him, Master Shi said, don't send anyone. Even if the whole kingdom went after him, he would not return.
Very good. And then he went up, and there's a statue of Bodhidharma. We've got him everywhere. There he is over there. Then he went to Shaolin Temple and sat for 9 years. So Bodhidharma in our tradition is very important. From him, or he's one of the Dharma treasures that we attribute the source of our sitting practice to. The source of this value of just sitting facing the wall, we attribute to Bodhidharma. And after a long time, he had several disciples. So this is another story from Bodhidharma's long teaching career. He had 4 disciples, and he was getting ready to return to India. Came to China from India and taught for 60 years. He was 60 years old when he left India, and then he came to China and taught for 60 years. Then he went back to China. So you figure. And he had 4 disciples and asked them, as he was getting ready to leave, demonstrate their understanding. Tell me your understanding. Which is what we're going to do to with tissues.
The first word was correct.
Asking for some understanding. So Bodhidharma had these 4 disciples and said, he's about to go back to India. He said to his students, the time has come. Can you express your understanding? One of the students, Dao Fu, said, my present view is that we should neither be attached to letters nor be apart from letters, and to allow the way to function freely. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my skin. The nun Song Chur said, my view is that it is like the joy of seeing Akshoba Buddha's gorgeous land just once and not again. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my flesh, which is like muscles. Dao Yu said, the 4 great elements are originally empty and the 5 skandhas do not exist. Therefore, I see nothing to be attained. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my bones. Finally, Huika came forward, made a full prostration, stood up, and returned to where he was and stood there. Bodhidharma said, you have attained my marrow. And he transmitted the Dharma and robe to Huika. So this sounds like 4 different understandings and sort of a hierarchy, as if the marrow were the more authentic recognition. But actually, when Dogen writes about this, it's all 4 the same. They're all intimately part of the body. The body couldn't be a body without one of those. So they're all intimately parts of the body. But one of the things I appreciate about this, one of the many things I appreciate about this set of conversations is the nun Song Chur. Because that nun, all of them, have spent their whole lives seeking enlightenment, seeking understanding, seeking really a shift from their ordinary way of seeing things. And she said, my view is that it is like the joy of seeing, getting a glimpse of reality just once and not again. The meaning of the Dao Fu's little historic interchange, when Bodhidharma said, can you express your understanding? He said, my present view is that we should neither be attached to letters nor be apart from letters, and to allow the way to function freely. And this remains very important for us as students of the way, because there are complicated feelings about whether we should get involved in study or not get involved in study. Should we just do the practice or should we study? And Bodhidharma's student said, we should neither be attached nor be not attached, but let the way function freely in the middle of our study. Uchiyama said about dissatisfaction. At first thought, one might believe that dissatisfaction should be resolved with satisfaction. But what happens instead is that once you've felt satisfied, more feelings of wanting to be satisfied arise with no end in sight. There's just no end to it. One is not satisfied. The only way to feel calm and find any peace is to settle down and leave the dissatisfaction or unfulfillment as it is. That is the spirit of the way. So this also applies to the non sung chur. This applies to getting a glimpse and feeling peace and calm. Once you've felt that, it's possible to then think, there is no other satisfaction besides that. But the real satisfaction is in the acceptance of the understanding of the dissatisfaction. Many years ago, Sawaki Roshi said to Uchiyama that the Dharma, the teaching of reality, is immeasurable and infinite. He said, there is no way the Dharma is going to fulfill your puny feelings of dissatisfaction. He said that to Uchiyama. We wouldn't say it to each other now. The fascicle, the writing from the Shobogenzo that came up for this week is called Painting of a Rice Cake. And you would think that a fascicle that's about a painting of a rice cake has nothing to do with the 8 qualities of a great person, but I can make it have a lot to do with it. And of course it does. But in this story, this is a story about another great Zen master who was asked, say something from the time before your parents were born. Say something from the time before your parents were born. Say something before all of our conditioning, our thinking about the world. Say something from before that time, who you are, before all that conditioning lands on you. Can you speak from that place? That's what the teacher said to Yunmin. Say something from before that time. Your parents, your grandparents, your country. Say something. And Yunmin said, a painting of a rice cake does not satisfy hunger. And he was not satisfied with that answer that he gave, but that's what he said from that time. A painting of a rice cake does not satisfy hunger. Dogen turns this inside out and upside down. But for us, one thing to think about is real reality is the only, he was thinking, real reality, real enlightenment is the only thing that satisfies this hunger that I've got, Yunmin. Real reality. And a simple representation of it can't satisfy that. What Uchiyama and what Dogen Zenji and what the Buddha is saying is that there is no difference between the representation of reality and real reality. It's all real reality. It all emerges from the ultimate. Okay. So when we are coursing in the conventional reality, we think, I'm over here, I've got all these causes and conditions, I like this, I don't like that, I've got a dog, we have a Zen center, people do things right or wrong, but underneath that is the ultimate reality, which makes no distinctions among all of that. It flows through us and is us. Ultimate reality. So Yunmin was saying, when he said painting of a rice cake does not satisfy hunger, he was saying, I want only the real thing. I only want the real thing. I don't know if any of you have ever felt that. I want the real thing. I don't want a cheap imitation. I want the real thing. But actually, the Buddhas and ancestors turned that around so that the representations of reality are the only thing that can satisfy hunger. It's the only thing. Because us in ultimate reality, we don't even have hunger. We don't even miss anything. We're totally complete. And then when we're in the conventional realm and there's a sensation of hunger, it's the representations that satisfy us. It's the only thing that can satisfy us. Only walking around humans can give us the connection that we need. And if we think that there's something more real than that, we'll never be satisfied. If we think there's something more real than these papers and these statues and that zabuton, those cushions, if we think there's something more real than that, we'll never be satisfied. And that's why we get so finicky around here. I mean, nobody else gets finicky except me. It's my job. That's why we get so wanting you to understand that, all of us to understand that these things are precious. It's just a representation of ultimate reality. Or isn't it ultimate reality itself? Another nice thing that Uchiyama Roshi said, and this is the maybe the last thing I'll say for now, but we'll see. Sorry. Is that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all these great beings who live in the ultimate realm, they're there coursing in the ultimate realm. But the ones who are walking around in the world, which are everywhere, all these bodhisattvas walking around and helping and connecting and helping you, they don't wear the 8 awarenesses on their sleeve. They've got these 8 awarenesses that I listed, the knowing when there's enough, practicing meditation, enjoying serenity, and not doing too much hollow talk. I smile. What is hollow talk? They don't wear those accomplishments on their sleeve. They just do their lives, and it flows out of them. So what they do notice, if they notice something, all of you who are bodhisattvas around, they notice their shortcomings. They notice their faults. They don't walk around saying, I'm really practicing knowing when I've had enough. Instead, what they notice is, oh, I'd like a little more of that part of the bowl that you're offering me. I'd like please, can I have a little more? They notice their shortcomings, or they notice their divergences from this. So that is to say, when we notice our shortcomings, or we notice that we have some thinking about our behavior, that's just bodhisattva activity also. It's totally bodhisattva activity. Oh, here I am, noticing, I wish I'd given that away instead of wanting it all for myself. Sneaking into the kitchen and having an extra piece of that chocolate cake. That was me. So again, I thank you all for doing this session together to extend to the Buddha's great activity, incomparably profound and subtle teaching, and our practice period where we got so deep together.